Hey, welcome in.
Welcome to the Arrowhead Addict podcast.
We are here coming to you live.
Let me tell you, the dopamine, it's flowing.
I am damn excited.
We are so excited to be joining you guys tonight.
Oh!
Well, how you doing, man? Patrick.
Will, Sterling.
Yeah.
Super Bowl champion, two-time Pro Bowler, and Trent Green. Trent Green, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Oh, he picked it up! He picked it up! He's gonna
And we'll see you next week. But until then, as always, go Chiefs.
Welcome into the Arrowhead Addict Podcast, Tuesday edition. Sterling Holmes, Josh Brisco. Follow me on the exit, JB Brisco. Myself at Homestretch KC. A lot of stuff to get into. Do have to point out, Brisco and I, during that countdown, we get to see each other, and we have 60 seconds of uninterrupted nonsense. And we were just singing All-American Reject songs, as millennials are apt to do. And we felt real good about it. And so I'm feeling confident and fun heading into this show. And basically, that's all to say. That's what the Chiefs actually winning a game handedly makes us feel like.
I have also had it dawn on me in these last 30 seconds, Stu, that we've never done karaoke together. And I'm not a huge karaoke guy in general. All of my close friends are better singers than I am. And so it's just not a thing. It's never my idea, right? But I feel like you and me could bring down the frickin' house with a little bit of All-American Rejects. I think Richard right now, our immaculate producer of this show, he is standing and applauding still in his room because he was so moved as we do this. So I am very, very excited to be here with you, my favorite Pixar dad, and I'm very excited to talk about the Chiefs win over the Ravens. Your mustache looks great, Stu.
Thanks, dude. Yeah, I can't sing. That's why I play drums, but I will give it my all.
Yes.
I will go out there and give you a performance that you won't forget, and you'll probably want to try and forget.
Right, yeah, fair.
Don't want to forget that game, because for a while it looked like the Chiefs forgot how to play offense. And then all of a sudden, I don't give a hoot nor a holler about the plethora of injuries the Ravens had sustained, because you know why, Brisco?
Why?
Teams don't give a hoot nor a holler when the Chiefs are injured. They say, overcome. No excuses, just results. And so guess what, Ravens? You got your asses clapped, boys. Woo! I'm stoked, man. I think the offense is so back that I feel enthusiastic. And this is without Rashee Rice.
Yeah.
Like, this is, again, injuries aside, because you're playing with what you got. Xavier Worthy just opened up so much for this offense that you look at what he does for Juju Smith-Schuster, which I'm going to get into later on, what he does for Tyquan Thornton, who caught a nice red zone touchdown. Lovely to see. What he does for Hollywood Brown. And honestly, I think Travis Kelce, I think it opened up stuff for Kelce as well. The run game obviously still had some left to be desired, but Kareem Hunt, I don't think the yards per carry tells the full story, because when you look at the yards per carry, he was inefficient, but when they had 3rd and 2 or 4th and 2, they got it. When they needed him to get that 1 or 2 or 3 yards, he got it. That's all he was going to get, but he did what he needed to do. Overall, I just think the big takeaway was the offensive line is really progressing nicely, including Kingsley Suamataia. No pressures in 41 pass block snaps. That is huge. The highest graded pass protection, according to PFF, of the Chiefs offensive linemen. And then I think the emergence of Xavier Worthy and what he does for the entirety of the offense.
I think that's all true. And in fact, I even think I made that Kareem Hunt point on post game right after, being like, man, his box score doesn't look like anything, but it feels like all 13 of these carries were 4th down conversions. They weren't, but they feel like they're all 3rd or 4th down. I think that I'm going to go 30,000 foot view here also first, and then we can kind of zoom in. I think I agree with everything you just laid out. Look, I will acknowledge that when you're trying to evaluate the team, you do have to take into account how banged up these units were and the weaknesses that may have exposed themselves over these last few weeks. And so when you remember that the Chiefs were, I assume, a pretty heavy favorite going into this game, considering all the Ravens injuries. No, the Ravens were favored at Arrowhead. And all of the injuries and those things didn't really come into conversation till the game was either functionally over or literally over. Interesting. That to me, that's my little jab at the goalpost moving that has happened here. And look, I understand why it happens. A lot of people have seen great things from the Ravens over the years, never in January or February, but over the years. Lamar Jackson really is an incredibly dynamic player, an incredible weapon, just right there neck and neck with Cooper Rush. But I understand why everybody psychs themselves up for the on paper Baltimore Ravens, because they are a heck of a football team, and they're a heck of a football team on the field too. But we have seen now too many times, this is no longer a small sample size to say, well, the Ravens are really good, but Lamar Jackson just gotten rattled by Spags a couple times. It's more than a couple now. It's also big games against the Bills. Like, you've seen enough mistakes from this Ravens team where I think we can intellectually honestly say, as Chiefs people, right? We know what it looks like when a great team gets in their own way and it costs them. We see it happen a couple times a year, and sometimes we see it happen near the end of the year for the Chiefs. So we're familiar with what that looks like. What I will absolutely not have today or yesterday or Sunday night or the rest of the week, I will absolutely not have such short-term memory loss in this revisionist history where the Chiefs were actually all fine. Everything was totally fine. The Ravens came to town. This was a game the Chiefs were supposed to win, and Baltimore was just so banged up you can't evaluate them. The Ravens defense came into the week bad, and it left injured and bad. And Matabuke never on the field for this game, which again, we knew when the betting lines were set earlier in the week. So that wasn't enough for Vegas or the books, but I digress. We knew the Ravens defense was coming in as a problem. I think there's a Mina Kimes clip going around that frankly was good analysis to say the Ravens offense is the best unit in this game. That was true. Past tense, but that was true. The Chiefs defense ultimately, I think, was the best unit in that game. Second place was the Chiefs offense. And then you see 13 points from the Ravens offense when they're trying. And I'm not supposed to overreact to the Chiefs defense being unimaginably back after a really weird start in week one. I am, if you haven't figured it out yet, hyped.
The Chiefs defense was yet again an A-plus game plan by Steve Spagnolo. The linebackers had Lamar Jackson befuddled, bewildered, confused.
Spags gave him hell, Stu. He gave him hell.
Spags was swinging back and forth between Leo Chanel and we should move along.
You can say Leo Chanel was Spags' dirty little secret. I've never seen him drop into coverage with a one-handed pick like that. That was new to me.
That was elite, dude. I mean, you look at the linebackers for the Chiefs in this game, and what a game. Nick Bolton, Leo, Drew, they all were outstanding. Noah Williams continues in the secondary to be such a bright spot. I know he doesn't make the snap count charts and the threshold, but he has been the best cornerback in football, according to PFF. You have Jalen Watson playing like a legit CB1. Trent McDuffie is a CB1. You've seen a nice breakdown in the safety room of Brian Cook getting fewer snaps, but more efficient with those snaps. Shamari Connor is still the guy that Spags trusts the most, but it feels like he's found a good role for Shamari because he's playing more safety, right? You're seeing a expanded role for CRW. There's not a snap going to a bad player right now. And again, this is why I say you can't always make excuses for injuries, because Christian Fulton was supposed to probably be their CB2. He's injured, which I think all of us should have at least at some point had in the back of our mind, because he's always injured.
This is also true for almost all of the Ravens players we're talking about, by the way.
Correct. And the point I'm making is the Chiefs have depth.
Right.
They've always had very, very deep rosters. And I know eventually it'll crack, aka Chiefs offensive line in Super Bowls, plural. Mm-hmm. But again, there's no excuses. You have to find ways to come through, and the Chiefs do that. I mean, you look at that secondary again for KC, and it is just a plethora of talent back there, an abundance of riches. The defensive line, I think, did a good job. Karlaftis, I think, had 8 pressures. I've seen anywhere from 8 to 9 in this game after 7 the week prior. Either way, 16-ish pressures over the past 2 games. Chris Jones, after going for a funeral, coming back and having a nice game in this one. I still have some concerns with guys like Charles Omenihu and just whoever's on the other side playing edge. It feels like there's not a lot of juice going on over there. But overall, this defense looks like a top 5 unit in the NFL. And when you have that coupled with Steve Spagnolo, my goodness, again, they did this not against the Giants, which we saw. against the Ravens, who everyone said was elite. Again, this was prior to all the injuries on offense, aka to Lamar. They bottled up Derrick Henry. They bottled up Lamar Jackson. They bottled up Zay Flowers, and they put so much pressure on him. I don't think he wanted to be out there. I think Lamar was injured, by the way. I'm not one of those guys
not
that
play against
says,
Houston, it sounds like.
Yeah, I'm not going to say, oh, it was a fake. No. But I don't think he wanted to go back out. I don't think you're saying, hey, could I go in a playoff game? Maybe. I'm not going to back out there down 2 scores. I'm already confused. We're not winning this game.
So all of this kind of goes full circle to me. Like I saw a comment go by a little bit ago that I just fundamentally disagree with. Where it's like, I don't think it does anybody any good to now retroactively dump on the Ravens offense, which was the best offense in football by a mile through 3 weeks. That is not a misevaluation of what the Ravens were doing. They had really good offensive performances, even as their rushing offense has taken a little bit of a step back, and they had to find different ways to do it. It just didn't turn out into victories. The Ravens offense, the start they were on was absolutely legitimate, which makes what the Chiefs did to them on Sunday all the more impressive. It's one of those instances where I feel like insulting the team you just beat actually kind of hurts the evaluation process, because you want to acknowledge the pedestal that Lamar Jackson has existed on here. It makes what Spags does all the more important. This is like now looking way too far down the line. My one remaining concern with the Chiefs offense, I think, is that you don't always want to have a Steve Spagnolo masterclass or Spagster Piece Theater or whatever one I come up with next week. Because you do want to have a couple of weeks where you can beat an inferior team. And frankly, this is what they did against the Giants, where it's like, hey, just go line up, play defense. I'm going to call a couple blitzes here and there, but this isn't a all hands on deck game plan where we're literally, as was the case on the Chanel pick, literally bringing out a play that we've never run before and may never run again because we want to use it in this moment. And Nick Bolton gets a free rush. Chanel's in the right spot. Everybody does their job, and Lamar makes a mistake, and Chanel makes him pay. You literally, you cannot draw it up better than that. It was drawn up to do that. Although I don't know if Spags said, and then they're going to throw it to Leo Chanel, and we're going to be happy about that, because that doesn't happen. But it really is fascinating to me. And I'm kind of with you still on, Mike Dana's still hurt. I'm still with you on the 4-man pass rush. I have a few questions left where I want to, if you can get to a point where you can consistently get there with 4 without having to do something kind of weird, I think that's still the best case scenario, because then your off speed pitch of bringing 6, 7, engage 8 is even more dominant. Your floor is higher. But there were Benjamin Solak of ESPN had a really good breakdown. I think it might've been Monday morning, of some of the things they were doing to pressure Lamar, and having Leo do the sort of like 1 yard off the line of scrimmage spy, where you're kind of rushing 3.5, or you're able to kind of occupy a blocker, but he's really there to play the angles and to make sure Lamar can't escape. This goes to the Karlaftis thing, where look, of those, 6, 7, 8, 9 pressures, there might have been 1 or 2 of them that were quick pressures, which is where you really make your money. I mean, he's made money. He will continue making money now for a while. But if you're in a position where your secondary is having the game that they had against Baltimore, and you are able to have the 3 guys fully rushing, which I think, it'd be Karlaftis, Jones, and then whoever the third guy would be it Minahu or Gelati or whatever, those 3 guys crushing the pocket, Leo just kind of playing semi-spy, eyes on Lamar watch, and everybody else plastered on pass catchers, they were effective with the 4-man rush against Baltimore. At times, again, they were effective with a 3.5-man rush. And if you can get away with that, you still have numbers behind you in the secondary to take advantage of those matchups. So I really don't know if you can overstate how good of a game plan it was for Spags. It was also, I saw that Nick Bolton had 5 pressures, all unblocked. And I'm happy to give credit to Nick Bolton here. Keep using him that way. If that's something you can call up, let's keep it happening, because he also talked post game. I think this is in McDowell's story in the Star, that he had to figure out how to kind of disguise his pre-blitz looks a little bit, because he felt like he was giving it away a little too much last year. It's not an exact quote, but I think that was McDowell's story that had it. if you're in a position now where your Mike linebacker can really make it look like Lamar doesn't know where he's coming or going, and you can fire that blitz at the right time, and you are getting unblocked blitzed pressures in Lamar Jackson's face, he's going to make mistakes. Almost every quarterback is going to make those mistakes. Patrick Mahomes might be wise enough to get rid of a football, but very little good things are happening with an unexpected blitzer straight up your face.
Which is one of the point I wanted to make of, to me, the best two quarterbacks are far and away the best two quarterbacks. Patrick and Josh.
Yeah.
I think I'm ready to say Josh is, over the past couple of years, in the same territory. I'm still putting Patrick 1, but I still think Josh is in that territory. I think there's a gap. Then you get to Lamar and Joe Burrow, and then another gap before you get to the Herberts and the Jalen Hurts and the Jaden Day, like the 5 through 12 bucket almost, if you will.
Yeah.
And I think the best play of the game that perfectly takes this into account, when Lamar had pressure in his face, he panicked.
Yep.
He didn't know where it was coming from. He didn't know pre-snap where it was coming from, and he panicked. He just simply panicked. What did Patrick do? One, he didn't know where it was
best
coming
game
from.
against the blitz in a long time.
That little touch pass to Travis Kelce was one that really stood out to me of, yep, okay. That play told me all I needed to know. If you've never watched either of those two quarterbacks ever play a game and you saw against the blitz what those two guys did, what's the difference? That play was the perfect example of what separates Patrick from even the third best quarterback in the NFL. That to me was what it was. And so when we talk numbers all the time and MVP and stats and all that, that's something that stats don't really tell you. That's just a feel thing. That's a 12-yard pass that you look at a box score, you'll say, oh, nice. He hit a nice completion to Travis Kelce for 12 yards, but it doesn't paint the full picture. When you watch Patrick play, that to me is when you start to get the understanding of how great he really is. So that's, I think, something that really stood out in my mind.
And it's the two-sided coin again. This is both about the quarterbacks and about the defenses they played, because you know, as much as we talk about Mahomes versus Jackson or Allen versus Burrow, you're actually going against these opposing defenses, right? So this is both a credit to Spags and a knock on Lamar and a knock on the Ravens defense and a credit to Mahomes. But one of those quarterbacks looked really, really uncomfortable all day, and one of them looked really, really comfortable all day. Comfortable and in control. There hasn't been a smoother Patrick Mahomes game since Rashee Rice got hurt, maybe. I could be glossing over something last year.
The Bills
playoff game, maybe.
Game.
Yeah.
Bills playoff game.
Maybe I should say regular season game, because I do think, because that's the asterisk you put on Mahomes, where he just gets better in the postseason, and it doesn't make any freaking sense because the whole game gets harder in the postseason. You're playing better teams, and he's just an alien. But yeah, fair enough. I think that's the most comfortable and calm and in control we have seen the Chiefs offense look, and that we have seen Mahomes look outside of the playoffs. And again, maybe right towards the end of the regular season last year, we got a couple of those games. Christmas was fun for a change as opposed to the year prior. I felt like we saw, with the return of Xavier Worthy and with the Chiefs offensive line having a pretty dominant performance against virtually a backup defensive line of the Ravens, I'm going to come back to. You saw him comfortable in his protection, believing in his options, knowing that guys were going to get open, knowing that either Worthy was going to get open or his gravitational pull was going to bring some attention away from Travis Kelce, Juju Smith-Schuster, Hollywood Brown, Tyquan Thornton, the running game, even again, having the success in some different spots, some more under center. Those are the things to me that are so important to see, because everything has looked so hard this year, because until the Ravens game, we had seen 3 plays with Xavier Worthy on the field and 0 with Rashee Rice. And again, huge step for Kingsley, a really good game for the offensive line in general. I'm acknowledging that is basically a backup Ravens defensive line, and I kind of don't care. I care from an analysis standpoint of just like, hey, where are we setting the standard? But that line survived against 2 of the 4 best defensive tackles in football the 2 weeks prior, against the Giants and Eagles. So I am not going to be gaslit into not celebrating a dominant win, taking advantage of a weakened unit, because they couldn't do that against the Chargers in week 1 and Trey Pipkins, right? They beat the Giants, but it wasn't the total takeover kind of game where there was absolutely no stress in the fourth quarter. I am very, very, like, I'm legitimately bought in to the growth they showed. I'm acknowledging where the Ravens were weak coming into this, but again, they were the favored football team when the game began. That matters.
And the Chiefs were underdogs. And speaking of underdog, oh boy, do we have something for you. With football back in full swing, Underdog is the best place to get in on all the action. It was electric on Monday Night Football. Even with some bad games, you know what keeps your attention in bad games? Underdog. It's super easy to play on Underdog, whether your favorite players, just pick them higher or lower. Stats like rushing yards, receptions, touchdowns, and more. You get your picks right, and you could win up to 5,000 times your cash. So I like doing this live. I think it's more fun. I think it's a little better as well. So what we're going to do is for Thursday Night Football at San Fran in LA against the Rams, McCaffrey is 58.5. I will go higher on his rush yards. Matthew Stafford is 233.5. I will go higher on his pass yards. Let's add one more in for good measure, because that seems like
You got to get a lower in there somewhere, right? I feel like we can't just always
go.
Oh, we get a little Puka. How about a little Puka? What has Puka hit? Has Puka hit a lower yet this year? I mean, maybe you go three hires there.
97.5. I'll go.
Holy smokes, 97 and oh, good.
You know what?
It's
It's Thursday Night Football.
Ooh,
I
good call.
think they're going to be on the ground a lot. Let's say lower for Brock Purdy's 243.5 pass
like
yards.
that.
Let's do that. So just like that, submit. That is how you do Underdog. It's super easy. It's fun. We can do it all together. Let's hope we win. I like winning. So all you can do, and all you have to do, is download the app, only if you want to, but I'd like you to. Download the app today and set up the promo code ArrowheadAddict to score $100 in bonus bets or entries when you play your first $5. That's promo code ArrowheadAddict. Underdog. Make picks, win money. Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama, Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado, 14 games, 21 plus in Arizona and Massachusetts and Virginia, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369.
9.1, the degree of difficulty boost for underscores getting thrown out there. You hit those with no problem. Loved your rhythm going through the states there. Another good effort for you on the read.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Could have gone faster, but I didn't have a sip of water beforehand. And you know, when you feel if I go faster, it's going to turn into a jumbled mess of
I'm going to blow a
nonsense.
tire. Yes.
No, we're not going to blow a tire. We're not doing a Cars where I feel like they blew tires in that program. All right. Speaking of not blowing tires, no fat tires for the offensive line. You mentioned it, but again, I want to still reiterate, this is a confidence builder. I don't think people realize how much confidence plays a factor in sports. I'm assuming most people that listen played sports at some level, whether it was high school, college, maybe there's a former pro in here somewhere, but a lot of folks played sports in high school or even just growing up. And you know, when you get into a rhythm, that it doesn't matter who you play. It doesn't matter who you're playing. Doesn't matter your competition. When you get into a rhythm, you go, I'm going to win. I am going to beat you at any cost. And so even when you play lesser competition, you can have a tendency to play down. That is a very real thing. The Chiefs did not. And the reason why this gives me confidence going forward is because now Kingsley, a guy who we heard last year who lost his confidence, right?
Yeah.
Well, now he shows he can do it. He can play a game where he gives up zero pressures. Juwan Taylor can play a game where he lines up correctly and has zero penalties. Josh Simmons had one bad rep, but you're going to have a bad rep in a game. That is common. Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, we trust those guys. But for me, it's those three in particular. I was impressed because bad competition or not, confidence breeds onto each other. And so the next time you play a game, you go, I don't care who I'm playing against. I've already shown I can do it. I know what expectations are, and I've proven to myself that I can.
And also, I'll just add to that even the backup NFL defensive linemen are the best players that Kingsley Suamataia has ever played against, right? Like Josh Simmons, even playing high-level college football, was not playing against second-string NFL defensive linemen most of the time. I'm sure he had some matchups with some future pros. But I think that it's important to keep that in mind, that you have the guy in front of you regardless of where he lands on the spectrum. So when that's Dexter Lawrence, he's still your guy. When that's DT4 for the Baltimore Ravens, that's your guy. And also the way that we talk about Mike Dana and Ashton Gelati and Omar Norman Lott and Charles Omenihu, well, most of those guys, one of them has to start opposite Karlaftis, right? 3 of those guys I just mentioned are in rotationally, and they are backups. And look, again, if Chris Jones wasn't on the Chiefs defensive line, it would change how we talked about the game, and it would change how the opposing guards could review their own film. Just put good film out. Just have a clean sheet. Have a good day. And again, if you are a backup quality guard, you're probably not going to give up 0 pressures to backup quality defensive tackles. And I don't really think Chiefs fans are doing this, so I might be kind of like looking down my nose at nobody here. But the idea that you would undercut what you saw because the Ravens were dealing with injuries, as if Rashee Rice is on the field for the Chiefs. I know he's suspended, obviously, but like this is something that every team is dealing with perpetually. If you're going to look and go, yeah, well, do it against Jalen Carter and Quentin Johnston. Or not Quentin Johnston, I hope Kingsley could block, but apparently Quentin Johnston's good now, so I just have him on the mind.
Yeah, he just might be just a late bloomer.
Yeah, maybe so. His hands grew in later than we expected, and they've been good since then. I don't know. But do it against Jalen Carter and Dexter Lawrence. He did. It wasn't perfect, but he did. And you put together really good games against potential future Hall of Famers. They're both pretty young, so that's kind of early. But I will take whatever form the good game comes in. We were watching preseason games trying to figure out, like, well, is Kingsley going to dominate this future practice squad player here? You hold up as a unit in your 4th game together with that starting 5. You want to see things continue to gel. You want to see winning performances against players who you think your guy is better than. That's much, much, much easier said than done. Because again, not to keep ragging on the one bad example, just the only example of the defense that I think really does have an issue. George Karlaftis never made Trey Pipkins look like a backup, and they lost that football game. If Josh Simmons and Kingsley Suamataia and Creed and Trey Smith and Jaron Taylor, if those guys made those Ravens defensive linemen look like guys who are going to have to fight for a job next year, good. That's because they went up against a legitimately good offensive line.
When it comes to, I don't want to bring it down too much here, but I at least want to have the conversation because I saw it earlier on, and I think it's fair, Harrison Butker, because this to me is the mental side of the NFL, and especially when you are a kicker, when I think a lot of kicking is mental. It's like golf. You know, you have your swing. Yeah, you'll lose it from here and there, but a lot of the reason why you lose it, I think, can be the mental side of things. Trust me, I know as a golfer who is very in his dome, I get it. I lose it a lot. But Butker's not a lazy guy. He's one of the hardest working dudes in the NFL, especially as a kicker. We saw what he did in training camp. First one in, last one out. That's not just me trying to make a joke. It's because he actually was. You saw what he was doing early to make sure he got there to try and run through game time situations, both sides of the field with wind, even on the kickoffs. He's too talented for this to happen, but we've seen this happen before. Younghoe Koo, for example, with the Falcons. He was one of the better kickers in the NFL. And all of a sudden, the Falcons cut him. They released him. I know Butker is, I think, at least, again, this is my opinion, somewhat in his dome because he keeps trying to change his kicking motion. Whether he's, do I collapse that leg? Do I stay on that leg? How's my ankle doing? Ankle looks good. It feels good. Well, then why am I pushing the ball 40 yards right and then I come back the next game and yank one left? Like that's a guy who, and by the way, the one way that he yanked left on the 56-yarder, I feel better about because that's his old miss. If we remember, well, I feel like when he misses more or less, it's because he overdraws it. He overcooks it. That one when he missed far, far right, that's like, oh man, that's a hosel rocket. That's a shank. That should not happen. The extra points do have me concerned. And I know some people are quick to gloss over this. Some people are. Like, I feel like there's not a lot of nuance with it. It's either he's a major issue or he's completely fine. He's done so much for the organization. He'll be okay. Yeah, but when you're the highest paid player at your position, you got to make 56 yarders. I know they're long, but that's why they pay you that much money, right? Like that's why they pay you to make the 56 yarders, right? Because if you're not going to make those, then you're just a guy. You're just a kicker, and you don't pay kickers that amount of money. Now, the Chiefs need him to figure it out. They'll give him time to figure it out because he's under contract, and it's a large contract and one you can't get out of. So he is going to be the kicker. So we've seen him make big-time kicks. I trust him still in big-time moments, but we need to see if this can get figured out sooner rather than later, because I do think it's becoming a problem, and I don't think it's something that we can just gloss over.
My version of the nuance here, and you got a little bit of it, and I might have said this on Tuesday's show also, because I think it's been my take for a full week and change now. Harrison Butker is right now a kicker. That when he jogs out there, you're a little bit nervous, you're a little bit hopeful, you think he's probably going to make it, but he might not. And your team loses 3 points, and you lose some sleep, and you get a 6-point swing in a game that matters, and that I think is the status quo until further notice. Is that he is in that headspace, and he's, again, this is going to sound derogatory, he's just a kicker right now. Now, in the bucket of just kickers, guys who aren't Brandon Aubrey, I'm still probably taking Butker over most of the other just kickers, because you do know how high his ceiling is, you know how big his leg is, you know that he has been in those big moments before. So I am still inclined to think that he'll probably figure it out. And again, if we're talking about the AFC Championship game, do I want Harrison Butker or do I want Spencer Schrader back, who's having a nice year and everything? I think I'd still rather have Harrison Butker, because I've seen him do it in those moments, right? And the other thing here, not only is he their kicker this year, he's their kicker next year. Next year, it would cost more money against the 2026 salary cap to cut him than it would to keep him, because that dead money would bump up. They could do like a June 1st thing, I think. But I mean, that it would have to be diabolical for that to even be on the table. And that's the risk of paying him. I remember us doing a show after the extension going, that's a really big number for a kicker that you just have to hope stays at this exact level through the life of this contract. I'm not in a panic mode that I would frankly do anything about just yet. I don't even know. Maybe if there's somebody that Dave Tobe likes that he wants to throw on the practice squad, or make sure you got Matthew Wright on the phone in case Butker needs to take a little IR stretch for some reason, which we haven't heard anything about him being injured or anything like that. I'm just kind of spitballing here. There's no world in which he's getting cut this year, or again, I think even next is almost financially impossible. If they cut him next year, his salary cap hit would be that of Trent McDuffie in the 5th year of his rookie option, right? Or not quite. Last year of his 4th. Regardless, he's your kicker. He's just a kicker right now. I think you have to be nervous until he gives you reason not to be. And I think Harrison Butker has as good of a chance to make that return to form as any kicker in a similar spot could have. So I am genuinely concerned, genuinely worried, but I don't really think there's anything you can do about it right now, because I don't think the 35th best kicker in the world, I don't think Rodrigo Blankenship is coming in and having a significantly better time than Harrison Butker is.
Yeah, I would agree with that statement, that sentiment. Again, he definitely deserves and gets some of the benefit, but it's why we've ripped on guys like Jawan Taylor. Now, Jawan never had that upside, but it's because of the contract. If he was a 5th rounder, we'd say, well, it's not bad. You can live with the penalties, but you were getting paid $20 million. One of the highest paid guys at your position, you expect greatness. A little bit to Trey Smith and George Karlaftis, how the expectations have now changed and evolved at least a little bit. When it comes to the running game for KC, what did you take away? Is there a reason for optimism? Because you saw Xavier Worthy get involved. You saw Bashard Smith starting to get more involved. And when I say run game, I mean even some screen passes as well, like Bashard Smith, that one particular one where he took for 12 yards, where I think Kareem and Pacheco go for 2, and that first down was picked up by Rashard. That was nice. He still saw a drop by him. He still saw a drop by Isaiah Pacheco as well. But overall, where do you feel the run game is heading? Is it trending the right way, or are you still Chiefs need to trade for someone? Where do you land here?
I think it could be a little bit of both, probably. I think it's trending in the right direction, and you saw good things from all 3 of those guys on Sunday, and that's more than you could say from the season to this point. I think you can say that was the best day from the Chiefs running backs this year, and also acknowledge that Xavier Worthy led them in rushing, like it.
Wait, time out. I just realized something. No, because week 3 against the Giants,
Yes,
right? I was going to say, is 2 quarterback, Mahomes twice and Worthy once. I was going to say, has a running back actually led the team in rushing for a game yet? And
yes,
the answer is yes, week 3.
But that's what it is. It's like, hey, I think that they're trending in the right direction, but through 4 weeks, they've had a running back as their leading rusher one time. That and their quarterback isn't Lamar Jackson. This isn't because Mahomes is trying to run first thing. So I do think I'll also say after Pacheco, his drop was brutal. I was glad to see him not only get a touchdown but catch a touchdown, because I really do think even if they do end up trying to make a move, and look, I'm no pay running backs guy, but like I'd call to see what the price is on Alvin Kamara and Breece Hall and some of those other guys. I want to know, if I'm Brett Veach, what would it cost me? So maybe there's still a world where you can bring in somebody like that both raises the ceiling and the floor, and I'm still very open to that. But I think probably for the rest of the season, and at least in the meantime, Isaiah Pacheco matters. Like they do need something more from him than what he gave them against the Giants when he kept running backwards and turning to the wrong end zone. So getting him involved and having a couple of nice little runs, he had another one that he should have kept outside that he bounced inside into contact for some reason and all of that. I think more work for Brashard Smith is a good thing. Just kind of keep that ball rolling a little bit. And like we talked about earlier, Kareem Hunt has a completely almost ignorable box score, but a real impact in the actual football game. So I think his role is pretty cemented. I don't think you can expect anything extra from Kareem Hunt other than a guy that you trust on the field in a handful of important circumstances. You want to get a little more out of Isaiah Pacheco, and you hope there's a lot more coming from Brashard Smith. So I still think I think it's still probably their weakest unit, their weakest position group at this point. But I do think there is like some hope there. And again, with Worthy and then eventually Rashee Rice back, it's not like they've been running into heavy boxes. So don't let me convince you that it's been a very hard time running the ball for those guys because of defensive strategies. That's not the case. But I do think as the offense continues to get rolling and get some of its easy buttons in the passing game, I'm inclined to think the running game will catch up a little bit there too. More under center also, which is nice. I'm
not saying this is a bad thing because the receiving room for KC has now gotten deep quick with just even Worthy coming back with Worthy, Hollywood. I think Juju's found a nice role, and you've seen what Thornton has done this year. I think you're pretty okay with those 4 guys. Are you surprised by the lack of involvement of Noah Gray? I know he had the one early against the Giants that was it Giants or Eagles that was overthrown by Patrick. But Noah Gray had a really nice under the radar year last year. Again, not a ton of yards overall, but in certain moments and spots, you saw him really, I think change the offense in 12 personnel, and it got us all excited. Are you surprised that you've not seen even last year's Noah Gray role? I know it's early. I know it's 4 games. And again, I'm not saying it's a bad thing because the Chiefs offense looked great against the Ravens. But at least I guess I am surprised we've seen a almost scaling back of a role for Noah Gray this year.
I like Noah Gray, not just because he's type 1 diabetic, but it does help. Shout out to my bad pancreas brother. I remember doing a thing before last season, a written story when I wrote about Noah Gray, and I went back and I looked and I realized that he had played exactly 52% of the offensive snaps for the Chiefs in his second and third seasons. And then last year he got up to 58% of the snaps, which is like a little bit of an increase there. And we'll get to his like actual receiving numbers in a second, but 58% last year. I just checked to see where he is this year. 58%. He is pacing. He's on the field the same percentage of time that he was on the field last year. The other thing last season, across the regular season, he averaged about 2.5 catches per game and about 26 yards per game. Both career highs, both about 1 more catch and about 8-9 more yards per game than he averaged the 2 years prior. And this year so far, it's been 1.5 catches per game, 5.5 yards per game. Maybe, that Ravens one certainly adds to it because it was 1 for 1 and nothing else happening there. This isn't an insult to Noah Gray. I just think it's what the Chiefs have told us. he's not replacing Travis Kelce. He's lots of people have talked about even him as like a legit tight end one, not as a Travis Kelce level tight end one, but just one of the 20 best tight ends in football who you can have be that third option in an offense. The Chiefs just haven't shown that they want him to do that. The outside of Travis Kelce, it's been speedy wide receivers have been the guys who have gotten a larger target share. I think Noah Gray has a major role in the offense, doing a lot of things. But when it comes down to it, they're throwing the ball to Juju Smith-Schuster and Hollywood Brown 10 out of 10 times before they end up going to Noah Gray. He's been there for some moments, but I think it's going to keep being sporadic, I guess is where I've landed.
Yeah, and that's fine again, because as Bumpa says, why go to Noah Gray when you have 5 more dynamic players on your team? Like if you're saying, who am I going to throw to? Noah Gray or Tyquan Thornton? Noah Gray or Juju, who still does.
That's why I use the Juju one, because like you can see some of that, the kind of dirty work guys, short intermediate.
Yeah, and
downs.
So I understand that, but still, there's still a role a lot of times for that guy.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He's playing more than half. He's playing more than half the snaps. I mean, this is a useful football player. I just think I question if his counting stats are ever going to reflect how much he's actually on the field.
I guess the reason why I was surprised was because it was surprising when it happened when he got that contract extension before the start of last year. Was it? I think it was the start of last year. And you're like,
yep.
Oh, that's weird. That's a good chunk. It wasn't cheap. It was a nice little payday for Noah Gray. And again, I think it's the right move. I think it's definitely a safe move. I'm just, again, a little surprised by maybe the lack of involvement, even if he's still getting a good amount of playing time, because we've seen him come up and show really nice hands as well. But I want to keep talking positive here, and that is Juju Smith-Schuster and how impressed I've been with him. Again, he's a dirty work guy. He actually led the Chiefs wide receivers in snaps last week, which I thought was a little surprising.
Yeah.
But I see why. Yes. Well, he's a great blocker. We know that. I don't care what PFF says. Anytime I see Juju out there, I trust him to get that block. I trust Juju. And he is very intelligent. And this is not me trying to take a shot at Sky Moore or just some other receivers. But some guys try, because in practice, you'll say, you run 5 yards, turn around, but make sure it's exactly 5. Make sure you do this. And you're trying to be so precise that you lose the flow of the game. You lose your rhythm because you're trying to be so hyper-focused on making sure you get that depth in your mind. Well, what if coverage changes? What if there's a different look out there? Then what happens? Well, if you run that same route, you give no chance to come down with the ball. That RPO was a perfect example of Juju flattening out and giving a great route and a great angle for Patrick to hit him, right? Because I don't know if every receiver does that. I think some receivers go too far downfield. I think they don't pay attention. Juju Smith-Schuster, for some of the lack of explosiveness at times, he gets more yak than you think, and he is very smart finding the soft spot and understanding what Patrick wants to do with the ball. And so that's why I think you're going to see a lot of Juju still, even when Rice comes back. We saw Tyquan Thornton. That was the guy whose role got kind of cut back a ton with Xavier Worthy coming back. Now, he still caught a touchdown, right? I still like Tyquan Thornton in the field, but it felt more like, okay, Worthy's taking Tyquan snaps. It's not Hollywood's. It's definitely not Juju's. I don't know. I guess I was impressed by Juju and also a little surprised by the Tyquan being the exact guy whose snaps went down, but I probably shouldn't be.
I'll go backwards to say that, yeah, I'm with you on the Thornton thing, where I was like a little bit surprised and a little bit bummed. And then I felt a little bit silly for being surprised or bummed about that. But I really do think, and maybe it's just not the Baltimore game, and maybe things are going to change as Worthy has now proven that he's like back, and Thornton has acquitted himself very well. Maybe down the road a little bit is when you start seeing them playing off of each other more, where there is the value of having both of those speedsters pushing your secondary the way that they can. I was a little bit bummed to see that as well, but I'm certainly not selling my Tyquan Thornton stock at this point. I really hope he gets to keep having the MVS role, and they just use the MVS guy a little bit less than they had to in the past. On Juju, the other one, I had to pull it up just now. It was in Seth Kaiser's Chief of the North newsletter, one of his clips in the Worthy film review. Juju just sets the best little rub route on fourth and 2 conversion.
Yes.
That Worthy hits, just a little short out hitting the sideline. it's perfectly done. It's completely legal, and Worthy is just fast enough to still win his way to the spot. The margin for error there is nothing. And I don't, this is like such an exaggeration. Please don't, I don't need to defend this one anywhere, but Juju just feels like he's the best rub route runner in football. You know what I mean? Just like every single time he's the guy trying to get a little bit of space for somebody else, he's going to do it. And I think you're right. I think it's the football IQ of knowing where he's supposed to be, of knowing what the receiver needs as a cerebral receiver who understands angles and who's seen a lot of defenses and is, in this instance, played the Ravens a ton and knows how they operate. I really think that he has a value here that, frankly, the fact that we're talking about like Thornton, Juju, and Hollywood ultimately having to kind of battle royale for the remaining snaps. That's what, and Jalen Royals, I guess, was on. He got a few snaps, but no targets. When the Chiefs were talking in training camp about how much they love their receiving room, and I think Reid and Nagy maybe said it was like the deepest, it was the most impressive wide receiver room they had in St. Joe, top to bottom. This is what it looks like, where you go, man, I'd like to see some more Tyquan Thornton snaps, but I can't really complain because those are replaced by Xavier Worthy snaps, and he looks like a speed demon out there. So good problems.
You talking about the rub route? Are you saying Juju has the best rub in the NFL? Was that what you were going for?
That's not what I said. Explicitly, that's not what I said.
Sounded kind of close to it, though.
I think I said he's the best rub route runner.
Oh, okay.
Sure, that's a thing.
Just want to make sure.
We can at least if you, I'll tell you what, here's how I'll pivot it. If someone in Juju Smith-Schuster's agency is watching this now, boy, do I have a deal for you. We're in Kansas City. Here is Juju's dry rub, or we can call it Juju Smith-Schuster's dry rub route. I'd put that on some meat.
Whoa, brother. 25% goes to Sterling Holmes. It's for a great cause. It's for me.
25% of my cut will go to Sterling Holmes, and I'll handle the rest of the negotiation.
Okay. Joshua Clayton, Stu's dog is under him. Yes, you could tell.
Is that what that was? I thought I saw something, but I couldn't tell what was going on.
Yeah, my dog is under my feet right now. So yes, correct.
Adorable.
But again, just to put a bow in the whole conversation, I'm enthusiastic about where this offense is going to go. Do I think they score 37 points a game going forward? No. They're going to score 38. No, I'm kidding. I believe in this offense more. I believe in this offense because of the offensive line. I believe in this offense because of Patrick Mahomes. My goodness, looking just like the vintage Patrick Mahomes, which is how we know we're getting a little older when we have to say vintage Patrick Mahomes. I know the offense is coming around because of the weapons and the receivers that they have. I know the offense is coming around because we're starting to see some extra creativity in the pass game as well. We're starting to see a few more aggressive aspects from Andy. I know he spoke earlier this year about how in the past, they're normally one of the more aggressive teams on fourth down. I looked it back up. No, they're normally anywhere from like 18th to 29th. Like they had not been really aggressive on fourth down. So I think that was a little bit of a maybe a little misspeaking. I don't know if he actually didn't believe that. Like I think he believed what he said. Andy, I just think that he thought he maybe went for it more than he actually did. But this year we're seeing a more aggressive Andy. I've been very, very impressed even earlier on in the season with some of the ideas, but now we're seeing the actuality of said ideas happen.
I think having the guys back who can open up not just more things you can do schematically, but guys who can make you right when the scheme isn't really working, which again, we've seen the issues in the offense so far this year. Having those pieces come together at about this time feels really, really nice. And it's crazy to think there's still 2 more games to play before this team's number 1 offensive weapon returns.
Steven says Juju's Q rub.
That's pretty good.
Wouldn't it be Juju Q? Like
yeah, maybe, yeah.
Juju
Bar B Juju Q. Smith-Schuster dry rub route.
Yeah,
we'll take it to the shop. We'll work on. I'm gonna work on some branding.
Yeah, well, there's an actual shop that we go to. It's weird.
We're gonna need a very big label. We're gonna have to sell this in huge buckets so we can get the entire Juju Smith-Schuster's Juju BQ Smith-Schuster dry rub route brought to you by Sterling Holmes.
And in smaller letters, Josh Brisco.
Yeah, I put your name first.
Thanks to everyone for hanging out with us. Had a lot of fun. Chiefs are back. I believe it. You believe it. You should believe it because I'm telling myself they're back. And they're back, baby. You'll listen to in 45 minutes, Brisco being back on your airwaves and on your screen with only weird games. A lot more coming your way all week long right here on the Arrowhead Addict channel. A 5-star review goes a long way. It does. It means a lot to me. I do read those, and it brings a little warmth to my cold heart. It makes my mustache grow even larger.
3 sizes larger.
A like and a 5-star review. So until
Every
next,
5-star review, Sterling grows another mustache hair.
he's not lying. Appreciate everyone hanging out. Until next time, we are out.